Okay, now there are a lot of different ways to measure what makes a specialization great, how much damage they deal, how well designed the spec is, and now you have the awesome new interaction with the spec and their brand new hero talent trees. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. My name is Sky, and today we're going to be breaking down the 10 best DPS specs that you could main heading into the war within. You're busy and you don't need the stress of figuring out what class is a sure banger this expansion, so don't worry, the comeback kids got your back. Don't forget, if you're looking for an easy way to find your runes or level up quickly in all versions of World of Warcraft, click that link in the description below to get the Rested XP guide. It's literally the best guide out there for World of Warcraft. I promise you won't be disappointed. Click the link, support the channel, gain rewards. Starting off with what could easily be the #1 pick in the game, you have the Augmentation Evoker. This spec is absolutely mandatory and can be filled in any type of content type out there. You have a wide variety of group buffing utility that includes, your flat main stat increase for your allies, extra critical strike chains, minor spell duplication to just have everyone deal more damage. You buff your tanks with extra health, your healers with extra mana regen. I mean, this is by far the best utility and group buffing class in the game, and it isn't even close. The craziest thing is that with the integration of the new hero talent trees, the damage you can deal on this spec is a lot higher than you would normally think for a utility-based class in an RPG game. Once you combine all your buffs onto yourself, while popping your own personal cooldowns, you can easily hit over 1.5, 2 million DPS, which is really insane to think about for a buffing spec. You also got your main resource consumer, which is your Eruption, which deals a nice consistent amount of AoE damage. You have your very heavy hitter, which is Power Upheaval, which can hit for like 7, 8, 9, 10 million damage in one single cast. You got to know at this point, the Augmentation Evoker pretty much covers all the bases. They deal very, very solid damage. The spec is super fun and unique to play. Nothing like any other class in the game. The hero talent trees and the talent tree overall are very well designed. I mean, you have a nice range of gameplay styles. This class is a sure banger. One of the best specs heading into the war within by far. Very, very well done job by Blizzard. Moving on to our next specialization, we have the very surprising Outlaw Rogue. And I know what you're thinking, why the hell would I put a rogue class on this list? But Outlaw does deserve its place. Here's the thing about Outlaw Rogue. Its AoE damage that it can put out is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the highest and consistent DPS in the entire game in a Mythic Plus environment, to where this spec can always be taken and wanted. It's a very high actions per minute class that's, constantly trying to keep up your buffs, whether it be your slice and dice, your roll the bones, and now your new fate-bound hero talent tree buffs. Pretty much the whole gimmick is to keep all these up as much as you can and deal the most damage possible inside of your stealth windows with your Blade Flurry active to get pretty much as many crack shots off as possible. I think the whole gameplay style of keeping your haste buff up through Take Them By Surprise, which is a passive near the end of your talent tree, and then trying to chain off a bunch of crack shots, I mean, it's pretty interesting, I'm not gonna lie, and I do think it's interactive, but if I'm being completely honest, it doesn't really feel like a, toe-to-toe combat fighter like Outlaw Rogue is supposed to be. Nevertheless, though, this class is specifically meant and designed for Mythic Plus content, and it is very, very strong in there. However, it does leave the other gameplay avenues like pure single-target DPS lacking a little bit. Overall, though, it's a fantastic AoE DPS spec, and I think if they tweaked up the Fate-bound hero talent tree, made it a little bit more controllable, this spec is absolutely on the verge of being one of the best in the entire game. I think it's an overall decent spec. Very, very high AoE damage with a little bit of complication. Overall, great spec. And of course, next, we have the Survival Hunter. And if you've been playing the War Within beta lately, I'm sure you've been aware of the brand new, reworked Survival Hunter, because this spec is doing amazing right now. It is all over the place. The rotation that was once bloated and full of just way too many buttons has become condensed, doing things like, simplifying Wildfire Infusion, removing Serpent Sting, and overall just cleaning up the rotation. You have, your interactions of your Butchery resetting Wildfire Bombs. You pump out as many explosive shots as you possibly can with your procs, which is now your #1 AoE DPS active ability, and then you top it all off with your massive Fury of the Eagle. You just destroy mobs in AoE situations, and we haven't even spoke about the best part of the spec, which is the integration of their Sentinel hero talent tree. This hero talent tree is so easy to just pick up and use that it doesn't even impede on your rotation. Your Sentinel ability has a chance to proc off of every attack that you use, and if you combine that with the Starfall effect on your Wildfire Bombs for this, it literally becomes your #1 DPS ability, and you don't have to change a thing about your rotation, which makes it just that much easier for you to pick it up and give this spec a go. I mean, there are some points in Mythic Plus where my brother Lance has everything locked in and going, and he can easily pull over 2 million DPS and not even bat an eye. Survival Hunter is definitely the best part about Hunter overall right now, and it's easily one of the better classes in the game as of right now when it comes to a mid-range DPS spec. Hats off to Blizzard for this brand new design. Survival Hunter is looking fantastic so far. Moving on now to one of the most explosive classes to play in the War Within beta, we have the Fire Mage. Now, even though this class has constantly gotten nerfed, Fire overall is just smacking right now. I'm not gonna lie, this class does have a bit of a learning curve, so it's a little bit difficult to learn, but if you know what you're doing and you're the type of player that can, plan 3, 4, 5 global cooldowns ahead, you're going to dominate on this spec. They cleaned up the talent tree and designed so well to where if you know how to play properly, you are in your combustion state a really good amount of time, and the AoE damage you could deal is just through the roof. You have the integration of the new, Living Bomb being baked into your Fire Blast, the AoE through your Phoenix Flames, Instant Flame Strikes, Pyroblast, which can then proc more Living Bombs to then spread and deal more damage. It is so explosive, very satisfying, and then, you go about your normal rotation, and you get your Sun King's Blessing proc to then get you back into combustion after you hard cast your next Pyroblast. It is very, very fun. Easily goes down as one of the most fun specs to play in the entire game. And another big reason for that has to be their Frostfire hero talent tree. It is just so symbiotic and works so well with the spec. It allows you to have a chance to proc an instant Frostfire bolt when you deal damage that hits for like 1 million damage and deals a bunch of AoE damage as well and explodes. And not only that, it could benefit towards your combustion and get you more procs, so it just gets to the point where you don't even have to hard cast anything on Fire Mage anymore, and you're literally just running around spamming Fire Blast, Living Bombs, Phoenix Flames, all instant cast on the move. It is so much fun. You're spamming abilities. It is a very well-designed spec to play overall, and easily one of the highest damage-dealing classes in the game as well, so hats off to Blizzard for this one. Moving on now to another very sure hitter. You guessed it. We have the Unholy Death Knight. If you're looking for an absolute just behemoth of a class, man, this could be your go-to option for sure. It's a very straightforward class and personally has my vote for being the best melee DPS in the game. I mean, the amount of AoE damage you could deal is through the roof by simply just, you spread your Festering Runes with Vile Contagion, you use your Defile ability to deal more damage, and then you spread all of your damage over time effects instantly with one single button using Outbreak, and then from there you pop all your cooldowns and annihilate mobs around you with just a pretty much 2-button rotation after that, and it's just so satisfying to use. Then once you add their hero talent trees, that's when things really just become kind of hilarious at that point. You get the Riders of the Apocalypse talent tree, which every 60 seconds or so, you summon pretty much an army of minions to do your bidding and just deal a crap ton of damage around you, all on their own. It's just so satisfying to have, your undead army to be able to control and just roam across the battlefield and just wreak havoc and terror. It is amazing. This spec is very well designed, simple, effective, an amazing class fantasy with a super fun design talent tree. If you're looking for a good DPS heading into the War Within, I gotta say Unholy has got to be one of your best melee DPS options for sure. Next up for another great melee DPS, we do have a surprising choice, and this was the Arms Warrior. Yes, believe it or not, Arms Warrior is freaking smashing right now in the War Within beta. This probably is the easiest melee DPS rotation in the game, and it feels like the goal of the warrior is very straightforward. You just deal as much damage as you could possibly do. In AoE situations, you toss out your Ravager, you use your Ward Breaker, and you pop your Sweeping Strikes, and then that's it. You just go nuts. You spam Overpower, you spam your Cleave as much as possible, and it's going to sound crazy, but I've had single Cleave abilities hit for up to 6 to 7 million damage in one global cooldown, which you can spam, which is just insane if you really think about it. My highest crit ever on a one Cleave on one target was 4.5 million damage. And listen, you got to remember, this is an AoE spell, so if you don't believe me, here's the picture for proof. Overall, I think their talent trees are very simple, very well designed, and with literally the whole purpose of these talent trees are just to deal as much damage as possible. There's no bullshit, there's no fluff, there's no complications. Easy to understand, super fun. My favorite part about this spec, though, has to be their Colossus hero talent tree. Pretty much you go about your normal rotation and you gain stacks of what is called Colossal Might, which you build up to 10, and then once you hit 10 stacks of Colossal Might, it increases the damage of your next Demolish ability, which is your new hero talent. and it allows this ability to hit like an absolute nuke, hitting for like 2 to 3 million damage in one swing to a single target, and, you know, some of that to enemies around your target. And it's one of the most satisfying hero talent abilities in the game, in my opinion. Arms Warrior, not bloated at all with buttons. It's a very straightforward rotation that just simply deals a shit ton of damage, man. If you're looking for a class that's simple, fun, gotta be one of your specs on your list. It's easily one of the best in the War Within beta right now. Moving on now, honestly, I didn't think too many people expected Shadow Priest to actually be as good it was going to be, especially considering that, you know, it has 2 other healer specs, and then making hero talent designs out of that didn't really sound very promising. But lo and behold, of course, Blizzard hit another banger. Overall, Shadow Priest is much better and way easier to understand than it probably has ever been. They stepped away from the Mind Seer design and just embedded all your dots into your Shadow Crash ability, which you use like every 20 seconds. And it makes the class so much easier to understand and manage. After you got your dots up, you got your shadowy apparitions floating out, and you're just building a bunch of insanity for, you know, a big void form dump and spamming, you know, Devouring Plague to increase your damage as long as you possibly can. It's really fun. It's a really nice builder-spender gameplay style for a ranged DPS that I genuinely enjoy. When it comes to their hero talent trees too, I mean, I might have the unpopular opinion here, but I really enjoy both of them a lot. You have the Archon hero talent tree, which pretty much turns your Halo ability, which looks super cool, by the way, into a major offensive cooldown that deals a crap ton of damage in AoE, as well as just trigger your Surge of Insanity to make your rotation feel a lot better with your Mind Flay. Not only that, it makes your Halo ability surge like 3 or 4 different times, so it feels really satisfying every 60 seconds or so to use. Then, of course, you have the fan favorite, which is the Void Weaver, which is probably one of the coolest visual animations in the game. It's all about using your Void Torrent ability when you're near max insanity, which then shoots out an entrophic rift that deals damage, and the whole idea is to squeeze as many Devouring Plagues in that rift cooldown as possible to increase the damage and size of the rift. And when it expires, it deals like a nuclear explosion to enemies, and it's really, really satisfying. Not only is Shadow Priest, you know, the rotation and talent tree design definitely above average when it comes to damage and stuff like that, their utility and rating environment is just very, very high. You have Power Infusion, Vampiric Embrace, Power Word Fortitude, Halo, healing and dealing damage. I mean, it's a very, very well-designed dominant spec right now in the War Within, and can for sure be a great spec for you if you're a ranged DPS caster. Speaking about another caster, we have the skin-melting damage over time class, the Affliction Warlock. And boy, oh boy, do we have a banger in this spec. This spec has been redesigned, and it just feels so much more fluid than the last few expansions, man. Your Siphon life is tied to your corruptions now. You can pump out instant Shadow Bolt volleys. The Soul Shard generation's a lot better, and the spec just flows so much, you know, more fluid now. I would say the best part about this spec, though, probably has to be the AoE damage you can deal with your Hellcaller hero talent tree, because it is just so, so strong. You use your Seed of Corruption to spread your new upgraded corruption in your hero talent tree, which is now called Wither. You use your Vile Taint to spread your Curse of Agony, and then you pair that with all your other damage over time effects while spamming Malefic Rapture. The damage quite literally just left me speechless while I was testing this out, and it felt so satisfying to use. I do wish Vile Taint's cooldown was reduced to 20 seconds, so, you know, you don't have to manually reapply Agony to each target, because there are some points where it feels kind of clunky. But if you have situations where enemies are dying within less than 20-second encounters, you're going to be dominating the damage meters. It's a very, very cleaned up fluid spec. Hero talent tree feels very impactful for them. Wither is awesome. It's honestly a chef's choice, and it's a very, very beautiful, you know, damage over time spec that you would love to play heading into the War Within. Of damage over time effects and dots are your playstyle. Now, Monk may not be the safest choice overall for a class, but good God, is Windwalker in a fantastic spot right now individually. The new redesign of their talent trees has left this cast feeling so much better than ever before. There's some moments with this spec where I can easily hit over 2 million DPS with all my cooldowns up and just obliterate mobs entirely on my own. I will say, I do think you have to be very specific to how you build your Windwalker to be able to deal that much damage, but nevertheless, it's always going to be a very fun spec to play. You know, big juicy Fist of Furies are back. AoE blackout kicks that can hit up to 8 times in one GCD, which is so funny to use. You're constantly summoning your Celestials from Pandaria. You have Zuin the White Tiger to assist you in battle with your Fist of Fury procs. The rotation feels good. It is just so, so fluid. One of the most fluid specs in the game, in my opinion. I also do love that you have so many micro cooldowns to use in pretty much every pull. You have your Strike of the Windlord, Zuin the White Tiger procs, Whirling Dragon Punch, and then you have their new hero talent ability, the Celestial Conduit, which deals a crap ton of AoE damage in a channel. And then not only that, it increases the cooldown rate of which all your abilities come back to be able to use. So you're just spamming all your abilities all over again. And it feels very satisfying, you know, to mow down groups of mobs all on your own. You know, once again, Windwalker Monk is looking to dominate so far, of course, like they always are in every beginning of the early expansion. So if you're looking for a damage dealer that's going to slap early on, this spec is high on everybody's list, being one of the best specs in the game. And then finally, we have last but not least, the Arcane Mage. And I'm going to say this right up front. This spec has been nerfed multiple times, but it hasn't changed how amazing this class is one bit. The Arcane Mage has been completely redesigned from top to bottom and probably has the highest and most consistent damage in the entire game while being one of the most satisfying specs to play. You're constantly pumping out Arcane Barrages and proccing Arcane Orbs, which then allows you to spam more Arcane Barrages, and it's probably the best the spec has ever felt. Your Arcane Missiles can now give you, you know, Arcane Charges, so there's no more clunky awkwardness after spending an Arcane Barrage. And if you pair your major offensive cooldowns like, you know, Touch of the Magi with your Arcane Surge, the damage is just simply so juicy and so satisfying to play. I love that this spec doesn't need its major cooldowns to deal a lot of damage though, because you have your Spellslinger hero talent tree that has you shooting out just a bunch of splinters to deal massive explosions and damage on your enemies while not impeding on your rotation, and it feels very impactful. So you pair that with your brand new, you know, Aether Attunement passive, which allows your Arcane Missiles to be AoE. You have just so much consistent damage on your hands that you don't even know what to do with. It's just so much fun. This spec easily checks off every box in the game. Super high damage, great for rating, great for Mythic Plus, fantastic design, amazing hero talent tree. I mean, what else could you possibly want in an amazing specialization like this one? Okay, now listen, here's the question. After seeing all these specializations, you gotta let me know in the comment section below, what are you going to main come the War Within? Is it a class you've never played before? Is it a class specialization that's on this list? Let us know and we would love to talk to you about it. By the way, we want to give a special thank you to all you guys watching our War Within content so far. We recently had a few videos break some really big milestones, hitting the 100,000 view mark, as well as the 50,000 view mark, and I really could not thank you all enough for watching and supporting the channel. Well, listen, if you guys enjoyed the content, we have a ton of other videos to help you get through the War Within, like these two right here. And since you're already here, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button to join the Comeback Kids family today, because every subscriber matters. Thank you all so much for enjoying the video. I'll see you in the next one.